Cool.
Okay, great.
My name's
Cool. Well,
Richard. My name's Richard, and this is Alan, my co-founder. We're the co-founders of Integuru. We have built a reverse engineering agent that can reverse engineer the internal APIs of other platforms for the sake of building low latency, high reliability integrations. So today we'll show you how the agent works, how it operates, and we'll actually live demo it for you by reverse engineering a platform.
let's do it. Well, it's great. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. It's great to see you guys again. And let's get started.
Awesome. So
You want to
yeah,
stream right now?
yeah. So we're on Alan's laptop.
This one, right?
And maybe while he's just getting started, I'm curious, like, how did you guys end up working on this? And how did you guys pick this problem area?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We actually started as a universal API company. We were building integrations with banks, brokerages to be able to pull tax forms like 1099s and W-2s out of these platforms. And when we were suffering trying to build this product, we had to build dozens of integrations. We decided to make our own lives a little bit easier. So we thought, based on our experience reverse engineering these platforms, there's some patterns and um, basically rules and standards we've come across that LLMs may be able to help us on. So we decided to build an agent to help ourselves in-house. And that was a very rudimentary version of what we're about to show you now. And after we built the agent, we're starting to use it for ourselves. A lot of friends and YC Bashmates started to come to us, and they were like, "Hey, can we use this agent to build our own integrations? Because there's a ton of these different use cases that they need to build integrations in, like healthcare, fintech, logistics." And so we thought, we're getting a bunch of this interest. Why don't we provide access and let people try it out? So that's when we launched it on Hacker News. We decided to open source the integration code generation feature while providing our hosted service, which is authentication management, hosting, and maintenance. And so that's when actually this thing took off. And a lot of people are using the agent today for a variety of different use cases.
And I love that, by the way. It's like I love when it's you have your own problem, you're solving your own problem, and then you're realizing like all these other companies also have the same problem. So I think that's so validating. Cool. Well, let's hop into the demo.
Okay, so how this agent works? Yeah, before I run it, I'm just gonna run down how it works. So the agent monitors your network requests made by your browser when you perform the action. And then from the network requests, it reverse engineers how the network requests are dependent on each other, and then it maps out a dependency graph. So the first thing it would do is find the request that is responsible for your action. So let's say you want to send money on Venmo. It'll find the request that sends money on Venmo, and then it'll figure out what that request depends on, and then it'll make a node of the dependency and then point to the final node, and then just keeps looping until you have like a whole graph of nodes. And then it traverses through the graph using BFS to convert the graph into code. So essentially, is the user flow is like this. It would spawn a browser. You perform your actions you want. It will export the network requests, and then you run the agent, and then the agent looks at the network requests to figure out what network request you need to call to trigger the final action. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. And I think the craziest thing about this, by the way, is like this is for, there are a lot of situations where websites have actual APIs and they have an external developer facing API, but then there are a ton of internal APIs where it's
Yes.
like, it's not documented, maybe even on purpose they're making it difficult so that developers are not able to have access to those types of things. And so you're able to unlock so much more functionality when you're able to integrate this way. And they're basically you guys are reverse engineering all of the network requests, which I think is so cool. Like it's almost like this hidden layer of API connectivity that you're not typically able to access for a lot of these.
Yeah, I think it's very, very common where these platforms don't expose everything, but like we've seen so many companies want these integrations, but they don't have APIs. Some just don't have APIs, but some, even if they do have the official APIs, don't have the ones that they want. So we heard this so many times, and that's a problem we had. We want to download these tax forms, but they don't have APIs for that. So we need to do this basically.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is we are currently serving both AI agent companies as well as your more traditional software companies. And the need to integrate with these platforms is shared amongst AI and non-AI companies. Recently OpenAI Operator came out, and obviously Anthropic Computers came out as well. That is one way to integrate with platforms, and we think that is a great way if you are trying to integrate with a long tail number of platforms and you need a more flexible approach. What we're really targeted at is exactly what are the integrations you need. For example, you're a B2B company, you need to serve this customer that just came in, and they're on 2 or 3 different systems. And you have to be able to integrate with 2 or 3 of these systems in order to serve this customer. A lot of our customers are in that kind of group and niche market where they know exactly what are the performant integrations they really need, and they need it to be as highly reliable and lowest latency as possible. That's why we are serving those companies.
Yep, yeah. And I remember like we chatted before, but it's almost like I view it as like layers of visibility of levels of jankiness in terms of the integrations. So it's like you can integrate with the official APIs that are external APIs. You can integrate with this internal APIs that you kind of been able to back out with the network request. And then there's like the jankiest, which is like I would say like the operator slash browser use, which is just like let's just click on the DOM,
Yeah.
which I think that's kind of how I think about it. But super, super interesting. And so have you guys come across like what are the craziest things people are asking you to integrate, or are there any weird use cases that have come up that were kind of unexpected?
We have seen all sorts of different use cases at this point. I mean, you can call all of them as crazy or not crazy because we've seen it all. Some of the most common use cases we've seen are, in healthcare, you need to integrate with EHRs, EMRs. In logistics, you need to integrate with different TMSs for a lot of trucking companies, for example. Hospitality, a lot of booking actions, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all over the place. And a surprising, and go ahead, I think you were
I
about
was
to say something.
gonna say there are a couple of companies that are asking us to reverse engineer their own systems,
I
which
love
is
that.
quite interesting.
Yeah. We're still trying to figure out, if that's actually a common phenomenon. We have a couple customers asking us to do that in the moment. Paid customers. All the customers we're referring to are all paid customers. For those specific, for those people that want us to build official APIs, they typically want to adopt newer AI solutions. So let's say you want to adopt a new voice agent on your platform, or you want to adopt a new AI agent for client intake. Your agent needs to interact with your own platform. And so they have come to us to reverse engineer their own platform as a sort of official API so they can adopt these AI solutions more quickly. But we're still, this is still a work in progress. We're more confident in the fact of that other sorts of customers will need us and want us, and that's more of a prolonged demand. But this is probably one of the more craziest stories of creating official APIs in this way. So it's still to be seen how popular of demand this will be, but we already have a couple customers we're doing this for. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's actually so funny. I wonder if like initially when you said that I was thinking more like, oh, is it the sales team that wants to, automatically configure stuff, but they don't want to bother their product team or something. But it seems like the use case is actually I want to build functionality on top of my existing application. I don't necessarily want to build an entire API SDK process, but if I could use Integuru, I could actually set that up and set up in a using the existing Rails that I have in my app.
Yeah. I think your initial intuition is definitely correct as well. Some of our customers, they are the sales team trying to build like its own, like their own initiative, and they don't want to bother their engineering team or IT team to help with it. So that's one use case. Some of our other customers, like half and half, I would say, in this scenario, are the engineering teams. They're like, hey, you guys can spin up this API for us really fast, so we're just gonna go with you guys.
Super interesting. And so do we want to like walk through an example or I'm actually really curious, so I haven't actually seen the product either in action. I'm curious like how authentication, for example, and those types of things are stored and how you guys manage those on the back end.
For sure. Yeah. So today's example will go through how to generate the integration code. For authentication, that's part of our hosted service. So we have built our own system to handle cookie management, cookie refreshing, et cetera, et cetera. So that will be part of our
Oh,
host.
interesting. Okay. Got it. And that's on like Cloudflare workers or how do you guys actually set that up?
Sorry, Cloudflare workers?
Or the hosted version? What is
We
how is
just
it set
so
up?
the yeah, we have two products. The agent that purely reverse engineers their logic, and then the hosted version does the whole thing. And the hosted version, how it's set up is we reverse engineer the login part as well. And then we also store their credentials because sometimes for most platforms, even if you refresh the tokens, there's like a max timeout, sometimes like a
Yep.
month, sometimes a week. So if we detect that happens, we just need to just relog in using the reverse engineered auth flow.
Oh, super cool. Okay. Got it. But the user doesn't have to like log in again with a magic link or whatever. Like it's all managed by your hosted
No,
option.
Yeah, we give our customers the option to choose. So if they don't want us to store the credentials, the end user will need to log in again. If they want us to store the credentials, if they want us to keep remaining logged in so they can do repeated actions without user intervention, we will store the credentials in a third-party secure vault so that we can use it that way.
Got it. Okay. Super cool.
Yeah, so
Okay.
let's show
let's start.
the agent. Yeah.
So, okay. So the first step is to generate the network request for the agent to use, right? So you run this command. Oh God. I deleted it. Whoops.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Cool. So the first step is to run the agent so that the browser pops up.
Wait, .com?
Yeah, .com. So today this is a random example we picked from LADWP, which is a utility platform from LA. The reason why we're showing this is because we actually know that there is a pretty famous utility universal API company that is using our agent in-house to build a lot of their integrations. So we just thought, why don't we just show this agent in action? So what Alan is doing now is that he will trigger the action to download the utility bill on this platform. And he is doing this within the browser that we just popped up. And
this is something that if you log in on your normal computer, this pops up too. So
yeah. So this is not anything unusual
that
he's doing at the moment. That was
oh my God. No more bikes?
No more bikes, yeah. Cool. So he's just trying to trigger the exact action that he wants on LADWP.
So we're going to view
bill.
And that's right. Download. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're using LAWP because I no longer live in LA. We're in SF now. So this is like a throwaway account that we can just showcase.
And then
so now the action is done. He closes the browser and then he runs the next.
You could see that the har files are here. It's called a har file. It's just a file of all the network requests. stored right here. And then you run the agent. So how you run it is like this. So is this called a utility bill or what? A usage bill?
Utility bill.
Is it correct?
Yeah.
Download utility bills.
So you describe what he's doing is that you need to describe what the action you want to the agent as a prompt. So in that, we just wrote, we want to download utility bills from this platform. And then today we're going to use O3 Mini. It's the newest model that OpenAI just came out with. And then there's two options when you run the agent. First is if you only want the graph of the network request, you can just generate without the generate code that he's written right here. But if you want to generate the entire integration code, just write it in right there. And right now we're having O3 Mini work very hard to generate the entire integration code.
So now, yeah, O3 Mini is a lot faster than O1. O1 was pretty slow. So they already finished generating the network graphs. You can see this is the master curl, master node, and now it's converting the graph into code. So like the generating code part takes a little longer because it needs to traverse through every single node and then convert it.
So this is the graph that we just found based on the network request file. And the AI agent is currently generating integration code based on the graph that it just found and generated.
Got it. That's crazy. So it's kind of like two steps. It's first is generating that network, the node graph, and then it's generating the actual code.
Yes.
Yes.
And you can use any model you want.
Yeah.
Or
recommend the smarter.
We recommend the smarter ones, especially those with reasoning. So when O1 first came out, that was a dramatic improvement for our agent compared to 4.0. And obviously, as OpenAI and Google, Anthropic, all these companies start to build more reasoning models, and also DeepSeek, of course, we think the agent will get more and more powerful over time. And we, of course, are constantly tuning our own agent to accommodate the new models that come out as well.
Yeah, which by the way, like we as venture capitalists, like we love because we always think about like, oh, like how is this, if the model gets smarter, like does this help this business or does it hurt it? And I think this is actually one where it's like if the models get better, this entire process actually gets accelerated and the number of graphs you can actually parse and the network requests that you can kind of backwards decompose, I think actually increases and the integrations actually get better. So that's actually would be a huge like green flag for me.
Yeah, every time when there's
pray the models get better.
Yeah, every time there's a new model that comes out, we're just so happy.
The first thing we do is like we just test how much this becomes much better.
Yeah.
All right. It seems like the integration code has been generated. It's done.
So okay, so how it works is you need to provide it with the authentication token.
Yep.
In this case, it's a cookie string. So I'm on my other screen trying to get the cookie string from my
the network
browser.
request tab.
So give me 1 second.
Yeah. But if you use our hosted service, again, we handle all of this for you, right? But just like we have a lot of developer hobbyists that are using our agent. And so for those people, you can go get the cookie yourself and you just paste it into the generated code. So right now,
because this entire thing is open source.
The agent itself is open source. Yes.
Yep. Amazing.
Yeah. So now he just pasted in the cookie from my utility build account into the generated code file. So now he's going to run the generated code.
Cool.
And as you can see, he already ran it and the integration has already been run. That was
finished. It's right here.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't open on VS Code, but I will.
That's the PDF we just downloaded.
How do you right click?
Control.
Wait, I can't right click for some reason.
It's probably in your download folder.
No.
It's in your file.
Right there.
Yeah. So that is the build that we just downloaded. And that took literally less than 1 second for us to download.
That's actually insane. My mind is kind of blown.
So now we have this integration code that we have just generated that people can just start using as an unofficial API to download the file.
Yeah. Super cool. Okay, so are there any like edge cases or like, particularly hard types of websites that you guys have run into where it's like maybe the HAR file for whatever reason you can't generate it? Like what are the edge cases when you guys test this on the World Wide Web?
Yeah. So the agent, we try not to overhype what we've built, and we don't want to overpromise. So the AI the agent is still limited by current AI intelligence capabilities, and also both intelligence and context window. So that's why we're really excited when AI improves. But there's definitely a lot of edge cases that it still doesn't support. We can give you some examples.
Yeah, so like one edge case is sometimes if they modify the data in their front end logic, only monitoring the net requests isn't sufficient.
Okay.
So like theoretically, if you want to solve, you need to somehow see how the front end logic is implemented. Um, yeah, so that is one case. I mean, there's a couple other like there's a few like random just edge cases that like you just got to spend time to individually patch.
Yeah. Sometimes the request can keep rotating.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
oh yeah, sometimes there's like you download a utility bill and it doesn't actually just immediately download. It's like it starts the process in their backend and then you need to hit it repeatedly from your front end every like 3 seconds to see if it's done. So those are like yeah, this one it's not gonna work for this, but those aren't super common.
Yeah. But whereas if you're like a human and you're familiar with reverse engineering, like doing this work, you can tell, right? You can pretty easily tell like that's not a huge issue. But with AI today, it still gets confused when it comes to those cases.
Yep, gotcha. And what do you think has been the hardest part about building this platform?
That's a really good question.
The edge cases, definitely the edge cases.
Yeah, there's a lot of edge cases that you need to take care of.
There's a lot.
I think one thing that we can share with you, just give a sneak peek, is we are actually, so if the thing that we just showed you is actually the V1 of our agent. We're currently working on V2, and we cannot share publicly on too much what we're doing just yet, but we're using a completely different infrastructure to build V2. And we're doing some crazy stuff internally right now. It's still experimental, but that is kind of where a lot of our time is being spent on at the moment. And assuming that V2 works, it will be even more powerful, drastically more powerful than what V1 can do today. So that in itself is a very challenging project. And so I would say that is what we look forward to every day, but that's also very challenging to work on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, I don't want to ruin the surprise for V2, but is there anything on the roadmap that you guys are particularly excited about or spending time on in terms of fleshing out next in product functionality?
Yeah, so one thing is like, for example, controlling for variables, for example. So if you
Mm,
are filling out forms, let's say, typically each field in a form can be its own box. But right now, Integuru V1 does not support any variables. But that is a really big use case, right? A lot of companies need to maybe add a certain different size of a shirt to the cart and things like that. Those are things that we're actively working on to support.
Yeah. And I love how it's like built in like poetry because it's actually interesting because a lot of these frameworks in the prior generation, those were kind of used for browser testing type of workflows like the playwrights of the world. And then we're seeing all of the infrastructure kind of get repurposed in this way for the AI agents. I'm like so interested in like what that, you know, entire like where does an AI agent live? It sounds like kind of a weird question, but like how does the AI agent actually go and move about the world and what kind of container does it live in? And some of those older sandbox tools actually ended up being like really powerful for these types of use cases, which is super interesting.
Yeah. Like I think they're the current like the current consensus in the startup world as to where the agent lives is like all still UI based. But as he said, I don't think that is
The only way.
the only way. I don't think it's the best way either. Like what we envision is like down the line, let's say we have V2 working, we can provide a standardized API for every single platform so that if you want to build any agent, like because all agents need to integrate with something, like it has to do something, or else I can't do anything, right? they're just gonna use our platform to hit those standardized APIs rather than clicking on websites and stuff.
I think
Yep.
if we have to predict at this time, and obviously this is our best educated guess, is there's going to be two camps, and there's going to be the official means to integrate. There's going to be the unofficial means to integrate. You can see what Anthropic is doing with the MCP protocol. That's going to be the best option if platforms do provide the API. We come from the fintech open banking world, right? So we have seen how there is a standard called FDX within open banking, but it doesn't mean that every bank and every institution will adopt it. So what we want to focus on is what happens when an official standard is not adopted. And that will continue to happen either for a variety of different reasons. And for the second unofficial big category group of integrations, you can use browser automation through the UI, and that's going to be that's going to be the best option for some use cases. If you're trying to be as flexible as you can, especially if you're a B2C company and you need to take care of a long tail set of needs for your B2C users, I think that makes a lot of sense to be using browser automation. But we also want to be an alternative for what is currently the most popular, which is web-based. We want to be that option for people to interact with other platforms through the backend. That's what we want to accomplish.
Yep, that's great. I mean, I think it's interesting because there are all these, I guess in the previous generation, this would have been called like the iPaaS players, so like integration platform as a service, and it would just like send you a magic link and then that would allow you to integrate, or you would save an API token from XYZ platform. And the new generation is like, how do we think about AI agents potentially integrating with different platforms? And it's like anywhere from I am a machine, so just give me an API token, to I am a co-pilot. I act on behalf of a user that already has an authentication, and I use their credentials or something. So it's like very, very interesting to think about kind of how the world is going to evolve from here. And I think really excited about kind of this broader potential to build out all of these, to your point, like this long tail of integrations, which I think is there will always be this long tail, and there will always be internal APIs people don't want to surface for whatever reason. There'll be a long tail of companies with super legacy systems. They don't even have APIs. And you'll need to be able to integrate with those. I am actually curious, like, yeah, what your thoughts are on like MPC, MCP, and kind of some of the new launches from the large language model companies.
I think there's a lot of correlation or an analogies we can draw between MCP and what happens when it comes to open banking, right? We're actually part of this organization called FDX, Financial Data Exchange for Open Banking, right? They introduced the standardized API spec that banks and brokerages should adhere to if they were to build their own official API. And we're huge fans of that, right? And we're huge fans of MCP as well, because if you are willingly, or if you are a company wanting to invest in the resources to actually enable your MCP, you should do that. You should, if you really want AI agents to interact with your platform, you should do that. Now, the problem with having any standardized API spec is adoption, right? You're really banking on other people's charity and willingness, and sometimes it's incentives, because some companies are going to be incentivized to allow AI agents to interact with them, but that's still going to be just a subset of all the companies, right? So adoption is going to be the biggest challenge.
Like for the FTX, so Plaid tried to standardize as well. They literally had to beg every single bank and pressure them into adopting this standard. The banks don't want to, and then they not force, but like basically force them to. So the benefit of us is we're permissionless. We don't care if they want us or not. We just do it.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of things that we need to take care of when we're in permissionless integration, right? That's why we actually treat our security and everything else really seriously, right? But we are more on the side of the open platform approach, right? We want to help founders, developers, companies to be able to actually provide the best experiences for their users. So we're all about open data, transparent data, open platforms, interoperability. Regarding your point about iPasses earlier, we're huge fans and historians of iPasses as well. We actually hesitate to call ourselves an iPass. And the reason why is because in our mind, iPasses are platforms that orchestrate the usage of official APIs, right? To take care of mapping, to take care of all those different things for official APIs. We are aiming to provide an even more direct experience for developers and for even non-tech people. Is you tell us what features you want, you just tell us the website that you want, and we directly enable a direct connection with that platform. So we're huge fans of iPasses, but I think what we're doing is also a little bit different from what traditional iPasses are understood to be.
Yeah, for sure, because you're kind of unearthing this secondary layer of potential things that ways to interact. And it's interesting because like the browser is almost like I think the analogy for that on the humanoid robot side would be like, oh, like we should just make humanoid robots because the systems out there are already built for humans and you can open the doors and everything's made for a humanoid type of person with opposable thumbs and hands, and kind of in the same way, if we can get the breadcrumbs from the network requests, then we can back out what it was actually doing when the human was interacting with it. So really, really interesting stuff. Okay, great. Well, I mean, thanks so much for coming on. I feel like I could take this in so many different directions. There's like a healthcare, direction of this, which is healthcare actually has the equivalent of the standard that you guys mentioned on the finance side called FHIR. But, we've been waiting for a very long time for payers to really integrate with it. And you see now there are all these voice agents that are literally they're trying to call insurance companies because despite FHIR, the payers have such bad APIs for insurance eligibility, claims, prior authorizations, et cetera. So I'm guessing you guys are also seeing just a ton of applications there on the healthcare side.
Yes, we are serving a good number of voice agents in healthcare, note-taking agents. There's also like patient payment agents that help both the clinics get paid by insurance companies, but also ease the patient payment experience a lot better. So we're starting to see all kinds of companies come up in the healthcare space. And I think like one of the things that really excite Alan and I about this company is we actually get to learn a lot from our customers. Some of our customers are on the cutting edge of their industries, and we work very closely with them, and we care a lot about helping them succeed. So every day we're receiving new information, learning new things about each industry, and that's really exciting for us.
Yep. Cool. Okay, favorite AI tool from you guys that is not your own product.
And yeah, I was gonna say Integuru actually.
No, but yeah, we use Cursor. Alan was saying Cursor. We use Cursor.
Yeah.
The Cursor team's based in SF, and we've heard great things about them. I think for me, this is something like even just beyond development and like the technical side of things. OpenAI with their ChatGPT product, they just came out with deep research. We're on their ChatGPT Pro plan, paying $200 a month. That sounds like a lot, but I'm not even incentivized to say this, but just a couple of research reports that I asked ChatGPT Deep Research to do, that's already worth $200 worth of knowledge for us, right? And it could be a casual hobby that I have in my mind, a casual idea, a curiosity, or just something related to our company. Like those are really good research papers I'm reading about all sorts of subjects that I can generate within 5 to 10 minutes. And what I've been experimenting with is I generate a research report using deep research, and then they have a feature to play out the output. So it's basically an instant podcast that I generate for myself on any topic that I want, which is really exciting.
That's crazy. I haven't actually had a chance to play with it yet, and so I'm actually really excited. I was kind of like, you could like $200 a month, but I think you're right. It's like you compare that with hiring an actual consultant to go run some sort of deep research. It would take them like a significantly longer, and also it would cost a lot more than that.
Exactly. And it might be relevant for your VC work as well, Nina. I mean, I'm sure I've worked in VC before, and a lot of the time we spend is researching each industry and company and what the work that they're doing. So like doing that is a superpower for VC, doing research this quickly.
Yeah, 100%. It's like one day I'm spending time in robotics, the next day I'm spending time in, I don't know, like drug discovery. So for sure, like
Yeah.
it does feel like you need to ramp one of the skill sets is like ramping up really, really quickly on new topics. And I feel like um deep research might actually be a pretty good ticket there.
Yeah. What about you, Nina? What are some really interesting AI tools that you've been using or have come across?
Oh boy. I mean, we've been looking at a lot internally. So it's literally AI agents across every vertical and every horizontal. I think that's the challenging thing that it's like so cross-cutting. So you'll have ones that are like literally, let's just do accounting as a vertical, for example, and we'll do accounts receivable and accounts payable, and then we'll do just like invoice processing from an inbox. That's like one use case. But then you'll have a horizontal company that's like, oh, you know what? Like um I'm gonna do like a AI worker that just is an AI employee. That's every single business function, or you'll have like an industry specific. I'm gonna do customer call service for just healthcare as a vertical, and there's enough there and there's enough of a market to just sell into contact centers for healthcare. So we've been seeing so many. It's been really like so messy because people are thinking about it from so many different angles in the same way that you guys are thinking, about different levels of integration all the way from external APIs all the way down to the jankier forms that we've
Yeah.
been talking about earlier. So it just feels like so messy right now.
Yeah, for us, we really want to be that reliable foundation for companies to build these newer experiences on, right? So, I think people always forget the last 50% of the work that AI agents need to do, right? A lot of consumers, they realize, okay, I'm talking with an AI agent, I'm texting an AI agent, but they may not be thinking about, okay, what does the AI agent actually need to do on the back end? That's the rest of the 50% work, right? Now that you've gotten the information from the patient, what do you actually need to do to schedule the appointment in the HR? Like that's the last 50% of the work that we want to enable and support. Um,
Yep.
yeah, and when
Yeah.
it comes to, just for the sake of like curiosity, when it comes to like these AI agents, in my brain, I've recently discovered this new category of AI agents that people actually want to talk to. And what I mean by that is I think the AI SDRs are really cool, but that's more of an outbound sort of experience, right? But there's AI agents that are the inbound sort of experience. Like one of my friends is building a company called Apurora, right? They're an AI agent interviewer. They help different companies interview candidates. And I would actually frame that type of company as a sales agent that people actually want to talk to, right? Because they're more incentivized to get a job. They're incentivized to interview with you. So I think that experience in itself is pretty exciting for us to see.
Yeah, that one was actually really interesting. So that's such an interesting story because I actually was talking to another company that was like an AI recruiting platform, and they also had been building internally this like AI that you could interview with as a candidate. And one thing was like, at first everyone was like, "Oh, that's like really weird. Like, do I want to be talking to an AI if I'm recruiting for a company?" But they were saying like they tried it and they were like, "Wow, like actually." This AI interviewer is like nicer than like a human interviewer would be. So like for example, there was like a new grad hire who was like, oh, like, the AI was like, oh, do you have any experience in XYZ? And then the person was like, oh no, I don't think I do. And then the AI was like, oh, well, like looking at your resume, like you didn't quite do this job, but here are like 4 or 5 other roles that maybe you learn the same skills. And then the person was like, oh yeah, like maybe I do have those skills. So it's like it was a situation where like the AI was actually helping the human recruiter or the human job candidate in a lot of ways. And I was like, wow, like that might actually be a better, interview experience than my interviewer is moody today and just is just being really mean to me.
Or they're on their fourth back-to-back interview and they just want to go back to
Totally.
regular coding work.
Totally. So I think that's a great example. Therapist actually is another example. There are studies that people are like more honest and transparent with a AI therapist because they feel like the AI therapist is not going to judge them. Like things like that where you feel like you can talk to them about more sensitive things. I think that's another great use case where the AI might actually be superior to a human. So I think about that sometimes as well. Like, does being one layer separated or something from a human or more detached actually is that actually a benefit in some situations? I think it actually could be.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, yeah.
It feels like it's like inverted because some people it's like they want the human connection, but you're saying no.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
think
Yeah.
it's
Well,
gonna be a
Waymo.
hybrid. Yeah.
Waymo is 20% of rides in San Francisco now. And I was like, wow, like y'all really hate humans. But
Yeah,
I think
it's gonna
mostly it's like, people trying to take phone calls or something, in the back of a Waymo.
yeah. It's
But
gonna be
I
a
was shocked by that number. That's very, very high.
yeah, and it's only gonna go up and up from here. So
There's so many Waymos.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel safer. I feel safer when I'm in a Waymo now. So
Interesting.
I think the ride quality is better. There's no sudden acceleration or deceleration, right? It's a smoother ride.
Yeah, and the craziest thing is the Waymos actually have you when the traffic signal turns green, it is like already moving like through the intersection. I think because it's taking in all of the other sensors, so I think it actually takes in like the walk sign, for example, and is actually able to predict when the traffic light will turn green. So its re response time is incredible. It's like literally the thing flashes and it's like it's already crossed the line. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
It's a fine line. Dangerous line.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me. This was super great to be able to. I hadn't actually seen the demo before, so it was really actually very cool to see it in action. And that moment when you like get the bill, the PDF downloaded is just like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, that feeling never gets old. So,
Yeah,
and we're
yeah.
just trying to enable this feeling in more and more platforms to increase the platform coverage. So that this we're really passionate about what we're doing.
Yeah, like I think when I was a kid and I was like, what is computer science? Like I think that was what I was thinking, like I'm just gonna automate some stuff and it's gonna do what the humans originally were doing. Um, so super cool. Well, thank you guys so much for that. It was so lovely. Who should we have on the show next?
You should. One of my best friends in SF, his name is Sean Shifdad, and
Okay.
he's a customer of ours. He's building a company called Pencil. He's a voice agent for specifically physical therapy practices,
Oh,
like a
cool.
receptionist to help them get leads. And I think he is a great person to talk to when it comes to go to market, when it comes to pivoting, finding ideas. He has a really cool founder journey. I can introduce you to him, and he'll be a great guest to have on.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love that.
Definitely, yeah. He's building a great company, and he's providing a ton of value for these PT clinics.
Yeah, I bet. My last company when I was at out of YC was actually a physical therapy company. So I will have a lot to discuss with him about all of the things that are wrong in PT.
That's awesome. Yeah, you two can nerd out about this industry for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. It was great.
Thank you, Nina.
Meeting you. Bye bye.
All right.